All right. So I guess what we can do is instead, I can start by talking about the club a little bit, some general information. So thank you to those that are tuning in through Facebook Live. I'm seeing there's about 11 or so people there, so that's super cool. Just a heads up, there is a slight lag between the Zoom participants, which include the club's officers and members, and the live stream on our Facebook page. So if you're joining through the Facebook page, um, apologies for the lag. It's 10 or 15 seconds, but please do feel free to type in any questions or comments there on the Facebook page. And if you see me look over my shoulder, I'm looking at my other monitors. Kind of keep an eye on the chat box there. So we'll do our best to address those as we go. But in the meantime, let's talk about a couple things here. So the club, if you are tuning into this and think it's anything other than carnivorous plant related, you are probably in the wrong place. We are a Southern California based carnivorous plant society. We do have members outside the state, but our in-person meetings and events are going to be kind of central to the Orange County area of California. So kind of the roots of where we began, most of us, all of us were members of LACPS, which is the Los Angeles group. Some of us traveled from afar to attend those meetings every other month. And we felt like, hey, on those off months, maybe we can do something for the southern area, the Orange County area folks, because San Diego had its own club, SDCPS, and there was this geographical gap in the middle in Orange County. And California is a large state, but there's also lots and lots of traffic. So even if it's 10, 20 miles, it could be a major drag to try to go to a meeting and you sit in traffic for 2 hours. So anyhow, don't want to get too much into that, but just kind of the roots of where we started. That was the reason we started SCCPE. We want to add to the Southern California carnivorous plant community. We had a group of very enthusiastic people that started this club about 2.5 years ago, that had some very large dreams, big ambitions, and we wanted to do a whole lot of cool stuff. And the best way that we thought of doing that was to formulate our own society that could really target those things that we wanted to do. So we're going to talk about some of those things. For what it's worth, we had our very first meeting, our inaugural meeting, in March of 2020. And so everything was honky-dory. Everybody was cool. We had 30-something people show up to our meeting. It was fantastic. We had Carson visit us all the way from Oregon, et cetera, et cetera. And we started with a bang. And then about 2 weeks later, the whole world shut down due to a little thing called a pandemic. So instead of kind of feeling bad for ourselves, what the team decided to do was, let's utilize this opportunity to get online. We immediately started talking about doing webinars and meetings on Zoom. And so we've done that for the last 2 years. We've sprinkled in a couple in-person meetings and events in between where it was safe to do so. And but for the majority of our roughly 2 years of existence, we've been online. And so we were able to really bring that platform out to the carnivorous plant community. And since then, other people have also jumped on the bandwagon, which we're super grateful of. And those are some of the things that we'll share with you today as well. So kind of in a nutshell, that's how we started. I want to introduce at least the officers and some of the members that are here, but I'm waiting for one very key important person to sign on to our Zoom. So if it sounds like I'm lagging or I'm stalling, I am, and I will admit that. So anyhow, I do see a whole bunch of people on the Facebook. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. If you're not familiar with some of our details and who we are, etc., all of our information is on our webpage. It's SCCPE, SCCPE.org. If somebody can help me by putting that in the the Facebook chat, that'd be great. But it's just skippy.org. We post our event stuff on there. There's a little bit of updating we need to do for all the cool stuff we got coming up this year. But if you stay connected through the website, you will see the meetings we have coming up, some of the past meeting information, as well as membership information. So our society does have dues that are annual, and there are different levels of membership that we offer. And so if you're interested in that, go check out the website. I'm not here with a sales pitch today to try to entice people to join. Totally up to you guys. We do offer all of our meetings and most of our online content totally free, totally open to visitors. We really want to cater to some of the newbie hobbyists out there and offer kind of information that's easy to digest. And so, sorry, my dog has decided to chew on his squeaky toy right in front of me. So anyway, my wife is trying to take care of that. All right, cool. So let me see. Who do we have on? We are still waiting for our VIP officer. Okay, all good, all good. Couple of the other things, I guess I'll just mention some of our social media. Obviously, you're on our Facebook. There are lots of links there, but we are on Instagram. It's a little bit slow right now because there aren't a whole lot of events happening, but it will definitely pick up very soon. And the Instagram is at SoCalCP Enthusiasts. Yes, it's long, but unfortunately, the shorter ones were already taken. So look for us on Instagram. We're also on YouTube. It's YouTube/SoCalCP, which is the same username as our Facebook page. And so we do try to post videos on YouTube of our meetings and events. We are still a little bit behind on that, but you know, if you subscribe to our YouTube, you'll kind of get the non-live version of a lot of our events and webinars and such. We do have a lot of very cool guests that come in and talk to our club meetings and webinars. So definitely worth checking out. We also do provide some care information here and there, care videos, tips, things like that on our YouTube. So it's worth checking out. I think, Adam, your audio got disconnected. I'm hoping you realize that and you're going to come back. Okay. Well, I don't want to lose too much time. So I'll go ahead and start introducing our officers. So you guys know who's running the club. You know, some of us, like myself, we are just knuckleheads, but for the most part, we have very experienced, dedicated members that have taken on leadership roles at our club, and we want you all, the general public, to know who we are. So I'll go ahead and get started. My name is John, as it says on the little box next to my face. I'm the president right now for Skippy. My background with carnivorous plants is actually quite limited. I have the least amount of experience between all of the officers, but I do have a lot of experience with club culture with various societies. So I do run several other clubs within different hobbies. It varies quite a bit. Everything from aquatic plants to turtles and reptiles to orchids and bromeliads. I'm in a lot of organizations and I'm in leadership roles in many of them. And so my focus in the club and what I bring to the table is more organizational structure, that kind of stuff. I'm also a project manager at work, my day job. I do have a full-time day job for a construction company. And so I'm a project manager there. And so that's just kind of my personality, who I am, what I enjoy doing. And that's why we started this club. Was we had these big projects in mind. We wanted to do some cool stuff. And it felt like we needed to do our own thing in order to accomplish those goals. So that being said, Braulio, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
I see that you're unmuted. Yeah, go for it.
I'm not. Okay, good. Yeah. So like John, I also have very little experience with carnivorous plants. I've been growing carnivorous plants about 5 years. Um, I also grow orchids and cacti. Um, I've been growing orchids for about 17 years and cacti a little bit longer, though I never really got into the hobby of cacti. I just collect stuff as I go. With the orchids, it's been pretty steady. I've been a member of the South Bay Orchid Society for about 15 years, and serving on the board there for about maybe 6 or 7. In fact, I became a treasurer with Skippy before I became a treasurer with the South Bay Orchid Society, and I'm also the first VP there. So my job, besides handling the money, I also book speakers for the Orchid Society. Um, like John, I wanted to do different things and go in a different way as the other societies in the Carnivorous Club community are. Uh, Basically because I've come from experience of a structured society, so I enjoy the organization. I enjoy the events that we hold for the members and the activities. So having that, I wanted to share that experience with the Carnivorous Plant Society. So I ran into John and Maggie and later with Adam. So I think it was a perfect combination there.
Cool. Speaking of Maggie, is your audio working, Maggie?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
didn't mean
no.
to be interruptive.
No, you're good. We are ready. So we did a quick introduction of kind of how the club started. I gave a brief introduction of myself. Braulio just finished. How about Maggie? I hate to put you on the spot as soon as you get here, but you want to tell our participants who you are and what you're doing for the club?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Pardon the tardiness. I was driving back from, I live in a rural area now, so every time I drive out to get anything, it's a half-hour drive. I'm Skippy's secretary, and I also work on the promotional things that we do for Skippy to get the information about events and happenings out to you guys. I'm sorry that my video is not up yet. I'll put it up in just a moment. And I'm here with Skippy mostly, even though I moved out of Southern California, I started with the club mostly because we saw a need to have something that was going to bring people together around carnivorous plants, and I'm interested in bringing that to people. So that's how I came to be part of Skippy.
So she's being super modest here. If
Cheers.
if our viewers don't know, she's the mastermind behind Maggie's Shop of Horrors. She's been offering really superb premium carnivorous plants to the community for years and years. And when I first met Maggie, I had already been Facebook stalking her for several months while I was doing research on carnivorous plants. And then I went to my first LACPS meeting. I don't know how long ago that was. That was probably 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago. And I saw Maggie in person. I was a little bit starstruck. So we are super blessed to have her on the team. She brings a lot of artistic talent as well as plant experience and connections to us. Totally super invaluable member of the team. So excellent. And then last but not least, most certainly, Adam, is your audio good to go?
Yeah, hey guys, can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah. Tell us about you, man.
So I'm Adam. I'm a vice president and also the recording secretary. I seem to be in charge of harebrained ideas and the website. Recently started doing a little bit of kind of liaison with our speakers and helping Maggie with, like finalizing people who are going to contribute to our monthly content or what's become now every other month. I have been growing carnivorous plants since 2015. quickly became an obsession. Never really grew anything before carnivorous plants, but kind of opened the door to orchids a little bit too. And I'm an electrician. I think what drew me into the club was Maggie sharing the thought that like we want to educate more and bring the level of awareness up so that there's more concentration around education and conservation of the plants and the environments that they come from. And then you know, I met John and Braulio through Maggie and through LACPS. I think I had just come to LACPS a couple of months before we started Skippy, but yeah, so that's who I am and that's how I got here.
So I'll add to that. Maggie is kind of the queen of fly traps, and she's also very well known for her nepenthes and various tropical plants. Not Braulio. Well, Braulio is super well known for all his Sarracenias. And then Adam is everything else. So all the stuff that people say is hard to keep, all the stuff that's a little bit less common, Adam has probably tried it and succeeded. And so he brings to the table a lot of knowledge about helium foras and highland plants, etc. And so it's been very interesting and a learning experience for all of us to have Adam on the team because he brings a very different perspective to growing plants and care and stuff. And he lives really far away from the rest of us. He's up in the San Bernardino area. And so his growing conditions are a little bit unique and different, but he makes it work both indoors and outdoors. And so that kind of, I guess you can call it trial and error learning, but that kind of experience is super helpful, especially for newbies that may not be in comfortable Orange County. And so anyhow, those are we are the four officers that started Skippy a couple years ago, but we have kind of evolved now very quickly, by the way, into a relatively large society. So we've got over 100 members. We've been around for 2 years, almost exclusively during a pandemic, but we've been able to grow our membership to, we just hit member number 102, I believe, this past week. Plus we have some complimentary members. But anyhow, so we grew really fast. We had our first full-blown show and sale last June, and that was absolutely amazing. I don't remember what the head count was, but I think it was like 1,500 or plus people that came to look at carnivorous plants down in the Newport Beach area. So we were blown away with the turnout. We were blown away with our members that participated in selling and showing plants. We don't have a recap video of that on our YouTube yet, but it's coming. And so, oh, sorry, I was just reading something in the chat. So anyhow, that was super exciting, super fun. That was one of the kind of big things that we as a group wanted to do, and we were able to accomplish that last year. And just kind of a quick note, we do have this year, 2022, our show and sale is on the books. We are scheduled to be back at the Sherman Library and Gardens Father's Day weekend. And the date eludes me. I think it's the 18th and 19th, middle of June, Father's Day weekend. I'm not a father, so I'm not, I don't have the date memorized for this year. Anyhow, so yeah, we'll talk about that again a little bit later when we talk about some of the upcoming information. But real quick, let me see if there are any questions or comments that we need to address anywhere. If anybody's got something before I go. Okay, I don't see anything yet. Just a lot of hellos. So wide broadcast hello to everybody. Real quick, actually, I want to give an opportunity. So we do have a couple of our members joining directly through Zoom. I don't know if any of you guys are interested in introducing yourself. No pressure, but if you want to. Anybody?
I can, if you'd like.
Yes, please.
My name is Sandy, and I've been growing carnivorous plants for about 7 years, successfully for about 7 years. A few years before that, not too successfully. But and I just joined because a club in Orange County seemed like a great idea. So I don't have to drive all the way to LA or San Diego to talk to people about plants. And here I am. I don't know.
I'm going to add to that too. So, Sandy was one of the first people that I bought carnivorous plants from many years ago. And I bought a lot of plants from her, and they all did very well. They were packaged so well, and the plants looked so good. She set the bar really high um, for me when I got into carnivorous plants. And then when I started going to meetings, I found out that she couldn't go because it was too far. And so actually, Sandy is one of the big reasons why I really wanted to start a society in the Orange County area. Folks like Sandy. So there's many others, but Sandy definitely was a big influence on me when I first got into carnivorous plants. So super grateful that she's continued to be involved with our club. She's very heavily involved. She goes to all of our events, etc. So super, super thankful for her being here.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That's so
No,
sweet.
no, you're awesome, Sandy. Your husband's awesome, and you have like the cutest daughter in the world. So
Thank you.
yeah. Hey, Dan, I don't know if you want to say something real quick.
I'm here. How are you?
Good, good. You want to tell folks about who you are, since you're kind of a superstar as well?
No, I'm not a superstar. I'm just learning like everybody else. I started carnivorous plants around age 12. Failed a lot. I was in Sacramento and definitely failed all that you could. And in 2018 or so, I started back. Actually, in 2008, I went and visited them in the North Carolina area, and learned a lot. I actually tried prior to that a little more and failed again. And so I went back and I visited them and learned a lot, taking temperature readings and things in the wild, and humidity and soil temperatures and whatnot. And I thought, I'm going to try to mimic some of that at my house. So me and a buddy started creating ideas, because I'm in the desert where it gets really hot, very dry, very bad conditions. And we started tinkering with ideas and creative ideas, and had somewhat of success. And so I'm kind of an addict, and I think the guys that are running these clubs are really top notch. John and all of you are doing a fantastic job. But yeah, it's great. It's a great hobby. Anybody out there that wants to get involved, it's something that'll really grow on you.
Hey, feel free to plug your website. What is it?
Oh,
Share-
exoticcarnivores.com. Exoticcarnivores.com. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So
Mostly,
Dan,
and I'm heavily into the Highland Nepenthes right now. I've still got plenty of Sarracenias and whatnot, but the Highlands are in a tent in my living room, and it seems to be a good thing, because really anybody can do that, because you just control all the conditions right there in those tents, which is I think a really great thing we have nowadays.
Hey,
Dan-
Dan, I think we're gonna have to use you for a field trip to the Carolinas.
Yeah, I try to go a lot. Yeah, that'd
Nice.
be fun. Yeah,
Yeah, we should do a field trip, skipping field trip over there.
that'd be fun.
well, Dan is also a part of another very exclusive organization in LA. Do you want to? Are you doing stuff right now? I thought I saw that you were performing, or no?
Yeah, I do perform Magic Act at the Magic Castle, and they have some other shows called It's Magic, which are in theaters. The McCallum Theater out in Palm Desert, and then one in Santa Barbara, and one in San Luis Obispo. Next month, I'll be doing those theaters. And then I will likely go back to the castle for a week in April. He's been calling, so I do stay a little busy with that as well. And then I have my own business, which is window coverings. That is really how I make my living. But the magic, I did it for a living for a number of years until 9/11, and then I came out here to Canyon Lake because I liked water skiing. So I decided to just, simmer down on the traveling schedule and cruise ships and casinos and stuff and stay home. And then, of course, the plants really got to start to play a big role in my life.
Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have very interesting people in our club. And Dan literally does magic. I haven't seen anything for myself yet, but I mean, if he's a member of the Magic Castle, that's a big deal. For those of you that don't know, it's very, very exclusive. It's literally a castle up in the Hollywood area. World-class magicians perform there, and so it's a big deal. It's really, really special. So cool.
Thanks, John. Continued success with your club.
Yeah, thank you. We are definitely trying.
Yeah.
So let's see. There is a question about winter plant care, but before we dig into plant questions, I just wanted to kind of go over some of the events that we have coming up in the very near future. So I'll kind of cut it off to the first 6 months of the year because that's when all the really exciting stuff is happening. So real quick stuff that we're doing February next month, we're going to have a webinar. It's actually the title of our webinar is Show Us Your Package. And so what we're going to be doing is kind of discussing both shipping and receiving of plants, what to expect, some best practices. Some of our members are going to be sharing folks like Sandy, who is really, really good at shipping plants and providing a premium quality product. So we're going to have that. And then we actually have a clip that Maggie has produced during her visit over at Pet Fly Trap on how they ship certain plants, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've ever won raffle plants from one of our online meetings, you know that we take a lot of pride. I say we like I'm taking credit, but it's mainly Braulio and Maggie that have been shipping plants over the last couple of years from our various online events. So we want to share that with you guys. We want to share with the newbies out there that receive a particular plant and think, hey, is this thing supposed to look like this? Where are the roots? Or why is it in this weird paper towel or something like that? So we want to talk about those things, hopefully answer any questions and concerns that participants have. So that's coming up February 20th. There is an event set up on our Facebook page. It's been added into our newsletter. So it's February 20th at 1 p.m. So that's coming up in February. And then earlier I mentioned that we had our very first meeting in March. And so we have March 5th scheduled for our first in-person meeting of the year. And that being kind of our anniversary meeting to celebrate our very first meeting ever. We're going to do something a little special. Don't have a location nailed down yet. We've been working on trying to get a location set for many months now. And with the kind of uptick of COVID, it's been challenging. I'll just leave it at that. So I'm sure we'll have something to announce, a location to announce very, very soon, but we're working on that. But the date is set for March 5th. And our presentation will actually feature John Endy, and he's going to talk about Biblis. So if you're interested in that, I guess is it a genera? Yeah, sure. In that carnivorous plant, it looks like a Drosera, but it's not. Anyhow, he's going to tell us kind of basic information about it, how to care for it, some basic information on what to expect keeping that plant, because it is a little bit specialized. It's not, I'll call it, it's not easy, quote unquote, like some of our other plants. So anyhow, he's going to do a presentation remotely. And so that will also be broadcast on Zoom. We will have a camera set up during the live or in-person meeting, and we'll try to stream that on Facebook. Don't know exactly how well that's going to work, but that's our goal anyway. So that's our first in-person event, March. And anybody that has not been to one of our meetings, what we do, kind of our format and structure of our meetings, is that our members bring plants for sale. So if you're not into carnivorous plants yet, you just want to check it out, you're more than welcome to come over. If you are looking to purchase carnivorous plants, our meetings are a fantastic opportunity to do that. Maggie has a hand up. Go ahead, Maggie.
So as far as the session on Bibulus, he will go through really good cultivation techniques for someone who has never done it, but you can ask as many advanced questions. I would say he's one of the experts on Bibulus. So you can ask whatever level, wherever level you are. Don't worry about it being, he's going to start out in a basic level, but you'll be able to take it to whatever level you want to take it to.
Very cool. So again, that's March 5th. We haven't nailed down an exact time yet, but we normally do our meetings late morning into the early afternoon Pacific time. So stay tuned for more information. We'll keep adding details over the next few weeks, and I'm sure we'll have a location set very, very soon. So that's definitely worth putting on your calendar. And then in April, the 21st to the 24th, there is a spring garden show that's hosted at the South Coast Plaza. It's one of the very, very large shopping centers in Orange County. And they annually have a very large garden show that takes up multiple floors of the mall. There are huge displays and competition activities for landscapers and interior designers and stuff. And then various plant societies by invite only are set up as vendors throughout the mall, kiosk areas against the railings, and et cetera, to talk about their society, but to also sell plants and tools. So this is a huge event. It's been canceled for the last couple of years due to COVID, but right now it is still a go for April 21st to the 24th. And Skippy will have a table. We'll have a booth there. Members will be selling plants. We'll have educational displays. By then, plants will be waking up. And so hopefully they'll be looking really good. So if you're in the Orange County area, or you might be in the area that weekend, definitely check it out. Even if you're not into carnivorous plants, orchid societies, succulent groups, all kinds of garden related folks will be there. And it's a really good time. It's a really fun time. So please come visit us, look for us. If you do, check it out, come and say hello to us. They don't have a floor plan yet, so I have no idea where we'll be, but we've signed up for a lot of table space. So hopefully we can have a nice spread out there and represent the carnivorous plant community. So again, that's April 21st to the 24th. It's 4 days and it overlaps into the weekend. So that's a super cool, exciting thing. It's our first time going to be there. Many years ago, California Carnivores used to go, but they stopped coming down. So the organizers of that show are excited to see carnivorous plants come back. And we're hoping to leave a nice impact on that show. So anyhow, again, we'll continue to share details of that show as we get closer to April. And then in May, what do we have in May? Oh, May is, so the International Carnivorous Plant Society, ICPS, that's the really big brains that do all the sciencey stuff, technical stuff with carnivorous plants. They maintain various registries for cultivars. They started doing what they called a World Carnivorous Plant Day, and that occurred the first Saturday, I believe. It was the first weekend in May last year. So that was the very first World Carnivorous Plant Day. It was 100% online, mainly through YouTube, with videos being reshared through social media. They did interviews with carnivorous plant people throughout the world, all over the world, various nurseries, various researchers, authors, illustrators. So that was a very exciting day where they showcased a different video. I think it was at every hour over the whole day. They called that World Carnivorous Plant Day. And the second one has been set and is on the calendars for May 3rd of this year. So that's kind of a big deal. If you're online, which I'm assuming all of you are, check that out. You can go on the ICPS YouTube page to kind of stay tuned over there. You can also go on their website, their social media. That's a big deal. And then the other thing, while we're on the subject of ICPS, they actually started, they're about to start. The first one is February 10th. They're doing discussions. They're doing Zoom meetings with carnivorous plant folks from around the world, kind of in snippets. I think what they're doing, it's weird times of the week. So the first one is February 10th. It's a Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific. But they're going to have Damon Collingsworth from California Carnivores talking about diseases and pests. And so, if you're interested in more touch points with carnivorous plant folks from around the world, check out the ICPS Facebook page under events. They've got a whole bunch of these things listed. They're also doing a virtual happy hour. The next one is February 16th. It's a Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And it might be because the organizer of this is located on the East Coast. So if the time seems a little bit awkward, you're like, hey, why are they doing stuff while I'm at work? I think it's because the main guy in charge is actually on the East Coast. So anyhow, so there's that stuff coming up. And that's all on the ICPS Facebook. The other thing that we briefly mentioned, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, is going to be our show and sale, the SCCPE show and sale. Again, it's going to be at the Sherman Library Gardens down in the Newport Beach area. It's just down the street from Fashion Island and Rogers Nursery. So fantastic venue. It's a relatively small garden. I think it's 3 or 4 acres, something like that. But they've got a really cool meeting room next to their cafe where we will have our main show area. And something that they're doing different and actually unique for us is they're going to give us the outdoor patio space in front of the gift shop. They call it the Tea Garden. But what happened was last year when we had our first show, we had so many people come visit us, and we had so many members bring awesome plants to show and to sell that they agreed we definitely need more space. And so they've given us a whole nother patio area, and we're going to use that to kind of have our sales area. And so there are photos of our show last year on Facebook, but like I said, we're going to do a little video that's going to be a little bit longer to kind of recap what happened there, but it's going to be super cool. We're going to have huge prizes for the show plants. We had over 200 entries last year, which is bonkers. Most societies are happy to get 50 or 60 entries. We had like 200. And so that was super amazing. All the plants were gorgeous. The biggest, most beautiful carnivorous plants you're going to lay your eyes on. And so we're going to definitely try to do better than that this year, in quality anyway. And so please mark your calendars. That's June 18th and 19th. So June 18th and 19th at the Sherman Library and Gardens is going to be our massive, exciting show and sale. And so we look forward to meeting you guys there. Like I said, even if you're not into carnivorous plants yet, it's fun to look at. They're super amazing, colorful plants that do crazy things. And so how could you not be attracted to that? Maggie, is there anything else you want to add about our show and sale?
You might just go over for anyone who's looking at this video in the general population, if they want to submit an entry, how do they do that? Can they do that? You might want to just go over that.
Okay, yeah, sure. So for the show part, the judge show, it is limited to our members. And so if you're not a member, please go check out what that looks like on our website. It's sccipe.org. And if you do a /membership, you can get a shortcut right into what our membership tiers look like. And so number one, you have to be a member to show your plants. Number two, what we're going to do as we get closer to the show date is we're going to publish some guidelines on how and what to submit. So last year, was it 10 categories? 8 categories? We had 8. Yeah, 8 categories. So we had 8 different categories that the show got divided into. We'll probably kind of revisit that and perhaps restructure that or split that up a little bit differently. But the plants being submitted for showing will be broken up by genus, mostly. It's mostly by genus. There are some of the smaller single species genus will be lumped together. But yeah, so you have to be a member. We'll provide the showing criteria and details on our membership group. So we have a separate Facebook group, a private one for just our members. And so we'll share details there over the next few months. And then we also have a separate email registry for our members only. So for the people not on Facebook, we communicate via email. And so there'll be details there, but it's totally free to enter. And last year we had Pet Fly Trap as their sponsor. I have not worked out details yet with them to see if or what they're willing to sponsor us for this year, but they're very generous and very supportive of our club, so I'm sure they'll be on board. But last year we gave away gift certificates for first, second, third, and I believe the prizes were $100, $60, and $40 for each category. And then we had kind of a grand prize, best in show, that was actually a $200 gift certificate on its own. And so I'm sure Maggie can verify those numbers because she took best in show last year with a very beautiful fly trap. So anyhow, we're hoping to match that or do even better maybe this year. But that's it. It's totally free to our members. What we want to do, the goal of the show is not just for members to show off what they got and how big, bad, and beautiful their plants are, but we want visitors to our show to see the variety, the breadth of carnivorous plants from around the world. So we do tend to lean heavily on fly traps and Sarracenia. They are native to the United States, and it's very, I guess I can call it a common carnivorous plant for folks to have, but we definitely want to encourage our members to submit some of the more obscure ones. And so last year, Adam totally, what's the word I'm looking for? He swept. Yeah, he killed it. He swept the Helianthora. It was Helianthora cephalotus and something else were clumped together, and he blew it out of the water with all his amazing Helianthorus. So anyhow, it's really, really fun. We had a professional photographer take photos of the winning plants last year. We're planning to do the same again this year. And so there's, of course, some bragging rights that come with winning. There's a gift certificate that comes with winning. But more than anything, it's knowing that we are showing people in person what these plants look like under cultivation and the variety of plants that people can enjoy. Because most people, you say carnivorous plant, they think, oh, fly trap. That's almost 99% of the time all they think about. And so when people come to our show and they see purpurea and nepenthes and drosseras and pings, it's, they're amazed. Every single person that came through was amazed, whether they were novice or new or experienced. Everybody was absolutely amazed with the quality and size and variety of our show. And so I can't take any credit for that. That's all our members. Some of our members travel from very far. We have members all the way up in Oregon that come down, as well as Northern California. And so I feel really blessed that we have members from all over. Oh, and San Diego, all the way down in San Diego. And, like Dan mentioned, he's out in the desert and Adam's up in the mountains. And so it's super cool to see all these people come down and participate in a large show like this. And so
I wanted to add, on the show, the judges were all like completely independent, handpicked. We even had someone from the Sherman who has no experience with carnivorous plants whatsoever, and it's all like we went to great lengths to make sure that the judges had no exposure to whose plants belong to who and whatnot. So we take the show part of it just as seriously as the sale part of it.
Oh yeah, that's a great point, and I'll elaborate a little bit more. So we had professional growers, we had horticulturalists from arboretums. So, we're blessed to know some of these working professionals in the field, and they served as judges on the panel. We had at least 6 or 7 different judges. And like Adam mentioned, one of them was the horticultural director from the Sherman Gardens who got to judge our plants. Very limited knowledge, but she's a horticulturist. So she can see a healthy plant. She can identify a plant that's been well taken care of and groomed. and then we also had, professional growers and stuff like that. So yeah, like Adam mentioned, we do take it very seriously. We keep our show anonymous, so none of the entries are identified by name of who submitted it. We want everything to be as objective as possible. And so we will have a committee this year that will kind of review how the show was structured last year and tweak it as necessary, improve it as necessary. And, I'm hoping that, again, it'll be a bigger and better show this year. And we can really put our stamp on the community, at least here in Southern California. So if, I do also want to say, if you're a new member or you're interested in joining or interested in showing a plant, and this is your first time, I would encourage you to not feel intimidated. Even if your plant is wee little small plant, talk to us. We have very experienced growers and experienced plant showers, I guess you can say. So Maggie has tons of experience showing plants. She's won many awards and ribbons at various carnivorous plant societies up and down the coast, San Diego, Bay Area, everywhere. She's been everywhere, and she's got a very keen artistic eye, and she's not afraid or shy to help you. So if you're interested in learning what that means or what that looks like, we have members that can help you with that. And as we get closer to the show date, we'll try to schedule talks or presentations from people that might be able to give some tips and tricks on the best way to show plants, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that answers the question. Yeah, go ahead, Braulio. What you got?
I've been waiting for the right moment, but I couldn't get in.
It's now. Go. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
When you were talking about the show being, not only about showing off our plants, but also about introducing people that have never seen carnivorous plants before. I think we can all remember the first time that we ever saw a carnivorous plant, and besides a flytrap, when we started learning that there were way more varieties and species, and I think with every person that sees carnivorous plants for the first time, we get to relive that moment of awe when we saw carnivorous plants for the first time. So yeah, it's very rewarding to show what we grow, but also introducing people to know these plants that exist out there, and many don't have any idea that they do.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. You guys, or most of you guys, know one of my all-time favorite event photos actually was from a few years ago, where we did an LACPS booth at the Pet Expo, and there's a picture of a kid with his jaw dropped, literally just gaping mouth, looking at some of the carnivorous plants that I think it was Maggie's plant.
It was Maggie.
Yeah, he just absolutely best picture. That's the kind of stuff that really drives us to do what we're doing. So yeah, that's a super big part of what we want to do, is to educate, but not just educate hobbyists, but get kids interested. I think carnivorous plants are a unique type of plant. So house plants have blown up, and everybody loves house plants. But some of these societies that we talk about, orchid societies, rose societies, are aging out a little bit. I also do bonsai, and the average age when you go to one of those clubs is probably 60 or 70 years old. And actually up in Sacramento, their bromeliad society was running out of members, and they said, hey, let's incorporate carnivorous plants, and that's how they were able to resurrect their society. And so I do believe that carnivorous plants is attractive to kind of a younger audience, and if that serves as a gateway for kids to get interested in plants, I think that's awesome. I personally, really enjoy that aspect of these plants. And so, what, I forgot to mention it earlier, but since we're on the subject of showing plants, etc., we do have a new photo contest that just started. So for those not familiar, we do a quarterly photo contest that follows the 4 seasons of the year. And so the current photo contest is our winter photo contest, and the theme is Bitchin' Blooms. So carnivorous plants themselves are incredibly beautiful and colorful and varied, but so are their flowers. And so the theme for this season, for the next few months, couple months now, is going to be about various flowers and inflorescence of carnivorous plants. And if you're wondering, it's totally free to submit photos, as long as they're yours. Don't steal photos on Google and try to submit those. But yeah, send photos of blooms. There's instructions on our Facebook page. Hopefully somebody will provide a link in the chat. But if you go on our Facebook page, it'll be pretty easy to find. There's a nice big photo banner kind of highlighting it. So the submission deadline is going to be the last day of winter, which is March 19th. So there's still, what is that, 2.5 months or so to submit a photo. And the photos, all the information there, submission details, all the boring stuff, all the details are in that post. So go look for it. It's also in our newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for a newsletter, please do so to stay connected with all the things that we're doing. And our photo contest also is sponsored by Pet Fly Trap. So the top 3 photos every quarter will receive gift certificates of Pet Fly Trap. The increments are, I believe, $40, $20, and $10 for first, second, and third. And again, totally free to enter, open to anybody. You don't have to be a member. The more photos we get, the better. And the winning photo not only gets the gift certificate to Carnivorous Plant, to Pet Fly Trap, but their photo will also be incorporated into the Facebook page banner for Skippy for a period of time. So currently right now, it's actually outdated. That needs to be updated. But anyhow, that'll be part of the banner. And so little perk, little fun thing to do. Many of our members have taken home gift certificates, and it's just something fun to do. We all know that taking photos is a big part of the hobby. We're just hoping you'll share those with us and our members. So normally what we do is the deadline will be the end of winter, March 13th or 19th, sorry. And then over the next couple days, we'll compile all those photos. We'll do a photo album on our Facebook page, and people will cast votes. General public will cast votes on what they like and love for photos to earn points. So anyhow, again, all those details are on the Facebook page. Just wanted to mention that. That's another fun activity. So we are actually running out of time. Real quick, I want to mention a couple other events that our neighboring societies are doing, because we wouldn't be here without the support of some of these other societies that have helped us from the beginning. And so BACPS, which is the Bay Area Carnivorous Plant Society up north in the San Francisco Bay Area, they are planning a show in June. They have promised me it will not overlap with our show on Father's Day weekend, so it'll be before or after that. But that is one of the kind of longest running shows, one of the most successful shows. It's a one-day deal for a few hours, but it'll be an outdoor venue. If you are in the area or can be in the area, I highly recommend going to that. I went last year and had a super great time. So that'll be sometime in June for BACPS. And San Diego, down to the south. So San Diego Carnivorous Plant Society is currently in the planning stages of having a show and sale in July. So they are also working on a date and a venue, but that's coming up in July. I know I told you guys it'll be the first. I'm only going to talk about the first 6 months of the year, but I lied. I want to include SDCPS because we have some of our members come from San Diego and they've been very supportive. Allison, who started the San Diego Club, is on her way back to San Diego. Hopefully it's okay for me to mention that during this live stream. I hope that wasn't a secret, but yeah, so we're super excited to see her back in town. So anyhow, that's all I'm going to talk about for events. Maggie, I think you had something you wanted to say.
Just a note to anybody listening to this who may be a retailer or someone who has a small nursery. We're not connected to Pet Fly Trap in any way. It's just that so happened that Mike of Pet Fly Trap and Stephanie of Pet Fly Traps, their heart is very much into education. And so they provide a lot of the gift certificates with a shared endeavor and a shared goal with us to bring to the hobbyists activities, events, information that will help grow the hobby, because we're also about education and about growing the hobby. And if we think about it, you know, we're one village really of carnivorous plant growers. Without the retailers, without people who grow plants that we can buy from, we don't have anything to grow. And if there are no hobbyists, they don't have anybody to sell to. And so what I'm saying here is that if you happen to be someone who can provide plants for raffling, or any sort of incentive for people to be involved with the hobby, we welcome that. And we're not limited to just pet flytrap, although we love them. And they have been a big supporter for many of our large and small and medium endeavors. So just a note about that.
Yeah, I apologize if I kept mentioning them, but they do support us a lot. Some of the other vendors that have supported us throughout the years, Jeff Green, so I mentioned Oregon, Cobra Green on social media. He's been super supportive of us since day one. You know, he's been very inviting of us to participate in some of his shows and activities that he does up and down the coast. So he's been very generous. He just gave us and San Diego, very large donation of Sarracenias for us to use at our shows and events. So Jeff Green's been a huge promoter and friend to the society. And so don't want to forget him. And then during our show, we actually had a lot of people donate stuff towards our raffle and things like that. So California Carnivores did send a nice box of goodies of plants that we were able to use during our show. So, you know, I hope I didn't sound like nobody else is helping us. You know, one of our judges was Marco, large nursery, large retail, not retail, but a wholesale grower down south. And so, and we're looking for more. If you are whatever size grower out there and you want to support what we're doing, no donation is too small. We do raffles and giveaways from time to time for promotional efforts, things like that. And you know, again, our sale, our show and sale is a huge fundraiser for us. And so the more goodies we have, the better. And yeah, Braulio wanted to mention Brian. You want to say something about Brian real quick?
Yeah, Brian has been also a big supporter from the beginning. He selflessly has always shipped us boxes full of Sarracenia. And this time around, he actually came down in person and dropped them off at my house. So yeah, whoever likes to donate, we are a nonprofit, so everything is tax deductible. We write up a nice letter for you to keep and use for your taxes. But yeah, we've gotten a lot of support from many people, members, people that we would not expect. They just gave us stuff, and it was really great, and we're very appreciative.
Cool. So our hour is up, but I don't want to cut it off and skip the Q part of our Q&A. So are there any questions that I've not been able to answer from either the Facebook chat or maybe any of our members that are joining through the Zoom? Let's kind of do a recap or answer any questions that there may be that I missed, if anybody can help chime in.
There's a question from Destiny Stout. She was asking about what kind of RO system everyone uses because it's getting really tiresome to buy 10 gallons of water from the store and lugging it back and forth.
Okay, I can share real quick about what I do. So I alluded to it earlier, but I'm really into aquatic plants. It's underwater gardening, for lack of better terms. And so I have an RO unit. I've tried many RO units. If you're in a small space, limited space apartment or something like that, or you don't need to make, you know, tons and tons of RO water, there are mini RODI systems out there. RO Buddy is one of them. They're very affordable. It's like 70 or 80 bucks for the RO unit. And if you get the DI cartridge in addition to that, it's closer to, it's almost 100 bucks, I think. But it produces plenty of water. They come with attachments to attach it to your sink or your garden hose. I have used that product, and I can stand by and say that it works. TDS will go down to 0 or under 5. Just something to keep in mind, though, that RO units do produce a lot of waste. Most units, it's a 3-to-1 waste to good water ratio. So just be mindful of that, especially as we get into drought conditions here. And the rumors are going around that California is going to start implementing water restrictions. So that may or may not be coming. So if you've got a limited space, I do highly recommend that product. If you've got a little bit more space, or you need to water a lot of plants like most of us, their Aquatic Life has a series. They're a local vendor, local manufacturer that is in Southern California, and they have a variety of products that work. I am really bad at changing my cartridge media, and so they have with a twist lock system where you can change all your cartridges in literally 20 seconds. And so that's a product that I use. It's by Aquatic Life. And they have various number of stages for your budget. That system's super affordable as well. It's around 100, $120 for like a 4-stage. The other brand or company that I can really recommend that I've used with great success, Bulk Reef Supply. So just bulkreefsupply.com. They have a plethora of RO units that they put together for all kind of budgets. Any of their RODI units, 3-stage, 5-stage, 7-stage, is more than enough for the carnivorous plants. So that's another very affordable, high quality vendor if you wanted to buy online. It's Bulk Reef Supply. So those are kind of my 3 thoughts based on your budget and needs. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in with what they use.
When I started, I was just getting water from the Glacier water dispensers up at the supermarket. When it got to over 20 gallons, that's when I decided to look for a narrow system. But yeah, do keep in mind that, like John mentioned, it does create a lot of waste. But yeah, if you have a small quantity of plants, rather than purchasing distilled water, which is pretty pricey, and it can get pretty pricey really fast, you can pick up a couple of 5-gallon jugs and fill them up with like a couple of bucks, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and if I would recommend getting a TDS meter. They range in quality and price from under $20 to over $100. But if you get a TDS reader to check the water source if you're buying or refilling water, do check, because some of these water sources don't maintain their filters all the time, and so the TDS will start creeping up over time. Is there anybody else that wanted to chip in about RO units?
I use the, I think it's actually the same one you were talking about, John, the Aquatic Life RO Buddy 100 gallon per day, 5-stage, 4-stage. I don't know. It's got the deionization bed. It's definitely a great unit. I splurged for the 3-channel inline TDS meter, so it measures. You can set it up on any of the hoses you want, but the way I have it set up is it reads the TDS of the water coming in, and then it reads the TDS of the water coming out of the membrane, and then it reads the TDS of the water coming out of the deionization bed. So it can kind of tell me, like, like the tap water where I'm at is like 395 coming in, and then out of the membrane it should be under 10, and then out of the deionization bed it should be 0. And once it gets over 10 out of the membrane, or over 3 or 4 out of the deionization bed, then I know it's time to change it. And I go through, probably 30 gallons a week, maybe more. But yeah, that's a great unit.
And I will say the wastewater doesn't have to be tossed. I save as much as I can. and use that to water other plants at home. So my succulents, et cetera, et cetera. My vegetables, well, when I have them, they get that waste, quote unquote, wastewater as well. So if you can collect it or route it so that it runs off to your tree or something like that, it's definitely not 100% waste down the drain. Because if you have a permanently, like the one that goes next to your sink, the reason people don't pay attention to the wastewater is it's actually plumbed directly into the waistline of your sink. And so if you've got an RO drinking water unit on your sink, you're actually producing, probably 3 to 4 times as much water in waste that goes directly down the drain. But just something to keep in mind.
John, you haven't had any problems with any of the other plants using the wastewater?
Not really.
Yeah, I was just gonna say my incoming water is so high that my wastewater is like 1,700 ppm or something like that. So I treat it as toxic, actually.
Yeah, no, I water my trees, a lot of my succulents. That's what I use to water.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been okay. I actually don't know what I have not checked the TDS of the wastewater. I should. That's
Not
not
a bad idea to check
that's not
that.
a bad idea.
Water, John.
What's that?
What's the TDS of your tap water?
The last time I checked, it was in the 300s. I know there was a period where it kind of spiked in the 6s, but it
Wow.
generally stays. Yeah. Well, Arizona, it's like 1,200. But
Jesus.
anyhow, yeah. So
I think
it's
the highest I've seen it here, and it's pretty bad here, but it'll regularly get into the low 400s, but I think I saw 495 once, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah, we're definitely not in Oregon or NorCal. They get super clean water. Cool. Anything else about RO water or water in general? Let me see if there are any other questions. So there's a question about zero water pitcher. So you have to be careful with that. So most of the, I'll call it typical or regular water pitcher filters where it just percolates through a membrane won't get your TDS down low enough. So like most of the Brita products, etc. But there are a couple that are a super slow percolation that can get your TDS pretty low. But kind of like what Adam was mentioning, your starting TDS has an impact on that. So if you're in an area where your total dissolved solids are 1,000 or more, none of those pitcher type models are going to work. But if you're starting off with relatively clean water, where it's in the hundreds or 200s, you are very likely going to be able to bring it down to an acceptable range. And depending on who you ask, that acceptable range for carnivorous plants is going to differ. And it's also going to differ on what plants you're watering. Obviously, some plants are a little bit more sensitive than others, and there are books out there that set guidelines, but it's not a hard and fast rule, especially because a lot of the cultivars that we keep are hybrids. And, generally speaking, hybrids are a little bit more hardy than species. And so they can tolerate different water parameters. So that's something to keep in mind. But I do know that there's 1 or 2 models of pitcher filters that seem to work for some people. But like I think it was Adam mentioning, I make a lot of RO water every week, and there's it doesn't make sense for me to have 50 pitchers on my kitchen counter percolating water. So anyhow.
Yeah, I think those pitchers aim mostly to taste, not to removing minerals.
I actually will chime in on the zero water thing. It does work as advertised. However, it, as John mentioned, the incoming water has a pretty drastic impact on the longevity of the filters, and I found them to be good for about 2 weeks, where I'm at with high 200s to low 400s, and that's not even that bad. What's bad is it's really hard to find legit zero water replacement filters. Like you go on Amazon and type in zero water filter, you find them ranging from $12 a piece to into the hundreds for just a 6-pack. And then you start digging and looking into the, the individual description and reading the reviews, and they're like, these are fake, these showed up wet, these ones were spent, and they're not very cheap. You can go to zerowater.com and get them there as well, and I think they're somewhere in the the $60 to $70 range for 4 of them or 6 of them. So it's really attractive on the surface, but when you get into it, if you have anything over, I would say 150 ppm water, it's going to get expensive quick, and you're really quickly into the price point of one of those RO buddies. I think you can find those sometimes for $100 or like $109. So the RO buddy really is the most cost effective and efficient, in my opinion.
Cool.
I'm gonna
There's a,
second what you,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Maggie.
I'm going to second what you said, John, and it will depend on what you're growing. When I had a ton of plants in my front yard in Southern California, I would give the best water, 0 to 5 at the most, to the fly traps, because they're just so sensitive about things. And things that came out 50 to 80, or I had three tubs, and one tub constantly had a little bit higher ppm, the higher ppm water I would give to my Sarracenias, and they would do fine. When we were up in the Northern California with ICPS field trip, the Darlingtonia that we saw off the side of the mountain had water. We measured the water, and the water was 80 ppm, and they were fine there. So it's going to highly depend on what you're growing. I would never allow my fly traps to sit in anything higher than 10.
That's why you have world-class fly traps and win all the prizes.
But without tumbling down into the rabbit hole of water ppm, but I do remember talking to one of the older growers at LACPS, and they were like, we used to water with water all our plants with the hose water, and then you just don't let them dry out, because that's when you get the calcium deposits on the roots, and that's when so if it's going to dry out, then they would rinse with distilled water, because they had the same addiction we did, but they didn't have RO filters. So they had hundreds of plants and no cost-effective way to water them all. So they just used tap water and then rinse with distilled water every week or two. That kind of blew my mind. But that's one of the things about these plants that I think draws us all to want to educate, is that we find out, like me with the helium flora or the Highland Nepenthes, I'm growing them in my kitchen. Everybody says that it has to be 100% humidity or they'll croak. Like, I grow them in house humidity. They're much more adaptable and much more, they thrive a lot easier than they're made out to be. So I don't know. That's one of the things that draws me to want to share the plants, is like, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, one comment on that is, our water sources have changed quite a bit over the last decades, including recycling programs, et cetera. And they actually add chemicals into the water because of the old piping system throughout California. I mean, most of the water supply piping is 100 years old or older. And so in order to reduce corrosion, et cetera, in the piping, they actually add chemicals in now that they used to not do before. But like you said, that's a very deep and complicated rabbit hole. Maybe we will have a webinar in the future about water. But anyway, go ahead.
Bryce do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that don't know, Bryce works for Hunter, which is a irrigation company. He's not, I don't see him on here today, but he's generally been a very, very active member. So yeah, we should definitely see if Bryce can help us with that. There is a question on Facebook that I wanted to address really quick, because we're definitely over on time. Question about a greenhouse in the LA area, cooling system, etc. So Grace, thank you for the question. I will just mention a couple things real quick here. there are many people growing with greenhouses. Braulio is one of them. I've been there. Carnivorous Plant Resource, located out of Mission Viejo, also has a large greenhouse that he grows out of. Our member, Leslie, is planning to build a greenhouse. And so the short answer is there are carnivorous plants that would benefit from a greenhouse. Most of those plants, or all of those plants, are either going to be very tropical in nature that require warm, humid environments, or like Adam was kind of saying as well, highland that require the opposite, where it's a very cool and humid environment. And the best way to manipulate those environments is in an enclosed space, usually in some sort of greenhouse. I know that Maggie as well, in years ago, did a presentation. I think she called it gorilla growing, if I'm not mistaken, where she showed us pictures and stuff about her growing conditions and how she uses mini indoor greenhouses to manipulate the environment to best suit those plants. So again, most of the plants that people are growing in some sort of enclosed environment like a greenhouse is either going to need very specific parameters in the tropical range or the highland, very cool range. The other plants, temperate plants, especially in California, are going to do their best outside. They all generally like very high light, so they're going to benefit from sun versus artificial lighting. And they also, by being temperate in nature, require a temperature swing. So in a greenhouse situation, normally the temperatures are going to remain relatively the same unless you artificially influence it. By being outside, they're going to be able to experience hot and cool temperature swings, which their anatomy, I'll call it, which their physiology needs for them to go dormant, to produce flowers, et cetera, et cetera. So, so anyway, in a quick nutshell, that's kind of what greenhouses are suitable for. I don't know if Braulio or Maggie want to dig into that a little bit deeper, since you two do participate in having a greenhouse.
Sure. My greenhouse is basically a hothouse. I don't have any type of cooling system other than just fans, circulating air. I've seen the best cooling systems for a greenhouse will be basically like a swamp cooler or a wet wall, where you have water circulating and then you have a fan blowing through the water, cooling the air. That seems to be the least expensive. If you want to get into more like a cooling it through like an AC, you gotta really insulate your greenhouse really well. Otherwise, you're gonna lose all that cool air. But yeah, it's got its benefits and it's got its downsides. Like I said, I mainly grow orchids in there, so I increase humidity by having like a little pond running water in there. So it evaporates some of the water, and I have misters that come on during the day on the hottest days to increase humidity. But other than that, I don't do much.
John, could you repeat the question again?
Sure. So I'll just read it verbatim. It says, anyone grow their CP in a greenhouse here in LA? If so, what cooling system would you recommend? Would it be best to keep my temperate plants outdoors?
Oh, so the question is around temperate plants. Well, you guys got it good in Southern California. I'm telling you, with temperate plants, leave them outside. Don't go to the expense of putting anything into a greenhouse when you don't really need it in Southern California. I mean, the only times is when you have those huge heat waves. And if you have, say, fly traps, I would always put shade cloth over my, about 30% shade cloth over my fly trap. When the temperatures are going to be over 90, 95. And that's mainly because we grow our plants in pots. They're not in the ground. And so their roots inside a small pot can become very hot. Whereas, you know, in the wild, fly traps are in the ground and the ground keeps them relatively cool. So yes, in the wild, they're going to get over 100 degrees exposure and do perfectly fine. But I found that if I shaded my fly traps, and even the Sarracenias, when things were over 90, 95, there's a lot less stress and they just grow a lot better. You're not going to have the color loss. You're not going to have the stuntedness that you see when temperatures are that high. Now, if you're talking about more of the tropical types of plants, what I had when I was in Southern California was an extra bedroom, mainly because putting up a greenhouse, there's a considerable expense to be considered, because you're not going to probably get the exact lighting that you want, and sometimes you might have to do supplement lighting. That's another cost. And then, like Braulio said, if you're going to do some sort of cooling system, I found that even inside that bedroom, the swamp coolers that produced a lot of output just really did the best for me. And I really didn't need an AC. Even for my most highland Nepenthes, I didn't need the AC. I just put them by the window, and I drew in some cold air from the window, and I used a swamp cooler to keep the moisture in that room. Now here in Texas, I'm not going to have that ability. And if you're somewhere like Dan Birch in a desert area where it's going to get really, really hot, you might have to rely on AC. But if you're somewhere in Southern California with weather that doesn't just mainly, you guys have the lows at the end of the day that we don't have in Texas in the summer. We stay hot 24/7 in the middle of the summer. And so you can utilize that cooling off period and utilize the outside air using like a fan and the swamp cooler to help you create that difference of the highs during the day and the lows in the night that you need for your highland types of plants. You don't probably need to go to the expense of AC like I would have to.
Yeah, and then I guess on the topic of cooling a greenhouse, I'll just mention real quick. So the difference, the big difference between AC versus swamp cooler is the dehydrating aspect of an AC unit. So AC units work by sucking moisture out of the air and cooling that room. And so you will have a dehydrating effect with an AC unit. And it will cool a lot more efficiently and give you a more cooling spectrum than a swamp cooler. But a swamp cooler or an evaporative cooler will help maintain humidity. So if that's a desired effect, even though a swamp cooler won't cool as much or as quickly as an AC unit, it'll probably help you maintain humidity. So cost is definitely an influence. Swamp coolers are generally much cheaper to purchase and run than an AC unit. So it all depends on scale. But yeah, if you're interested in more information, David Pfefferman's not here today in this meeting, but he's got a large greenhouse in Mission Viejo, and he cools it with a homemade swamp cooler and evaporative cooler. The other thing that I can mention real quick for cooling assistance, if you have a hard structure greenhouse and it's not just a tent type, a lot of them have windows that will open automatically at a given temperature to help vent. So that can help. But even better than that is having shade cloth. So you can put shade cloth over your greenhouse to keep it a little bit cooler in the summer, because that's actually the challenge here in California is cooling a greenhouse. And so, depending on what plants you're trying to keep in there, if it's a Sarracenia or flytrap, like Maggie mentioned, it's definitely not worth the expense or trouble of trying to stuff it into a greenhouse. But if your Nepenthes collection is growing, we've got several members that have built their own greenhouses, etc., and plan to build greenhouses. So if you come check out our meetings and stuff, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to talk to people that are thinking along the same lines as you. So I'm going to do one last quick look through the chat to see if there are any other questions or comments before we wrap it up, because it's getting close to 1:30. You guys got a 50% bonus on this live stream. We were only going to do an hour, but we got an hour and a half. Time flies when you're having fun. Before we close it up, I'll mention, membership. So the benefits of membership of our club, it's not just showing plants. We do have some member-only events that we do. Something fun we did recently was we helped Carnivorous Plant Resource repot over 800 plants, most of them Sarracenias, that also included a barbecue. So we had, I think, 20 something people come out that day. And it was a super fun time. A lot of work. I was sore for 2 days after, but good food, good people, had a lot of fun, got to learn a lot, asking each other questions and such. We had some brand new members, brand new people come and check that out. And so that was fun. We're going to continue doing things like that. Braulio is hosting a little mini repotting party in about a month at his house to help repot the club's plants. And so members were invited to that. So let's see, before I end the stream, anybody else want to say anything? Totally open. No, everybody's shy. Braulio is very serious. Okay, cool.
We're good.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank everybody that tuned in, our members that joined through Zoom, and all of the rest of you that are checking us out on the Facebook live feed. We'll keep this video up so that people checking us out can hear about what we're up to. Again, the Facebook is going to be a great place to stay connected to all the things that we got coming up. I want to thank the leadership over at SCCPE, not just the officers, but we have a lot of members. We have like 10 members that have stepped up to really help continue push the club to new heights. So super grateful. And I feel honored to be in this company with these people. So thanks again, everybody. Last call for any comments before I shut her down. All right, cool. Hong Ran, I want to see you. I don't know if you had your kid yet, but yeah, we miss you at our meetings and stuff, man. Anyhow, all right. Thanks again, everybody. I will shut down the live feed and the Zoom.
Thank you all.
And yeah, hopefully we see you in a couple weeks at the February webinar. Thanks again.
Good growing, everybody.
All righty.